Hello again and welcome to episode 3 of the Matt Black podcast. I've got a very special guest here today with me. It's Jo Taylor from Follicle Illusion. So how are we doing out there? Are we all right?
Yeah, great.
Yes?
Nice to be here.
Yeah?
Nice to see you again as well.
Yeah? And yourself? So it's probably going to be a little bit confusing to some people because they're not going to have a clue what we're talking about right now. So my aim in this first 5 or 10 minutes is to kind of explain who you are and what it is that you actually do. So Follicle Illusion is a SMP company, so that's Scalp Micropigmentation.
Yeah.
So can you explain to the people listening what that is?
Yeah, it's a form of tattooing. So guys that are bald, it's like you're making them look like they've got a full head of hair that they choose to shave off, and that is done with ink and I use ultrafine needles and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, all over the scalp to make it just look so natural. It's also used for adding density for both men and women, so it makes the sparse hair look much fuller. And scars, covering it up if they've had hair transplant.
Yeah.
You know, the scars from the FUE or the strip, any sort of scars, and alopecia. Yeah, it gives the people the look of the shaved head when they've been bald all those years.
So anyone that's been following me on YouTube or on other social media platforms, you'll probably see that Jo actually did my SMP, which is how we met.
Yeah.
So they can see the examples on this if they're watching this by video right now. So I came to you, when would that be? It'd be a couple of years ago in August. It's been
21.
So I've had...
When I was in the other...
You were in Castleford, weren't you? Yeah, so you've moved the studio to Wakefield.
Yeah,
now.
Because I was a barber first, and when I started to learn SMP in 2018, I did that April 2018. So I was doing the barbering and then doing the SMP on my days off, Wednesday and Sunday. And then a friend of mine who was a barber came in Mondays and Tuesdays, so I was doing the SMP in the back room. And I was getting busier, so I was starting to close the barber shop, and it wasn't fair on clients, so decided to close the barber shop, relocate to Wakefield where I live, and open a clinic there.
So now you just focus on the SMP, not the barbering anymore?
Not really, no. I've got a couple of clients that come.
Yeah.
But it is SMP.
I imagine it's hot competition right now. There's a lot of barbers and trendy kind of barbers popping up, isn't there, that do all
There's a lot of... When I went to Castleford, there was only about 4 in the town centre. These Turkish barbers, there was only 2. When I left, there was... In the town centre. When I left, there was 10 Turkish barbers in there, and... So I came at the right time and left at the right time. So it's just getting swamped everywhere.
Yeah.
And I loved it, but I love this, so it was fine for me to just change over. Yeah. Change direction, so.
How long did you do the barbering for?
9 years.
9 years.
I left the prison service.
Right.
When I took voluntary redundancy in 2012. I did a barbering course in 2011. Because ideally I thought if I live abroad I can do something, and then they brought voluntary redundancy out in 2012 and I was like, that's it, I'm off. I'm leaving. So I did. Parents were like, what are you doing? You're out of your mind. I was like, I'm doing it, I'm going. And yeah, it was a struggle. Anything is when you're starting up a new business, but I pulled in my belt so tight and I never gave up. Yeah. And then I saw the SMP on some documentary thing, like something like the One Show, and I was like, oh, that looks great. I'm gonna do that. But the training was about 10,000 back in, I think it was 2015. So I thought I'll leave it for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know how it came up again.
It's a small house deposit, really.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And then I saw it again in 2017, back end of the year. I don't know how. And then I just thought, I'm going to look into this. So I decided to try and find trainers. And it was pretty hard. But I found someone, and the price had come down. It was still thousands, but it had come down. So I decided to do it. And I would say that the training that I got then wasn't that good, because I'm now a teacher.
Yeah.
I train it, so, you know, compared to, I've got a manual that the students will get, and it's a 102-page. I got nothing. They didn't explain shading with the ink. It was like, you might need 3 drops in here and then 4 drops of distilled water, which meant nothing to me. The needles I knew that were too big because of my barber background. I knew that they didn't replicate hair follicles. They're like round dots. So about a year and a half later, I did a masterclass with another company. It was good. It just focused on the shading of the inks to match the clients and how to do it, and the different hairlines, which I was only shown one hairline, and it was that. It was a curved one, but it was super straight, super lined up, and I knew it wasn't right because as a barber, I know that hairlines are all different, but when you don't know something well enough, you just don't know how to change it. So we did that, and that was great. And then the needles began to get thinner. I was like looking for really, really ultra fine needles. So now it's great, much better.
It seems it's like it's progressed in the same, even though it is different to tattooing. Because obviously a tattoo artist and an SMP artist will point out the differences, but it has still come along leaps and bounds from, say, 10 years ago. I first saw SMP online quite a long time ago, and I thought, I'll never have that done because it looked like a helmet. And it was, I mentioned when you first got here, I saw someone on the internet and he'd got these weird points on the side of his head that he looked like Dracula. So it put me off wanting the idea of it. And at that time, I was still kind of in the stage of thinking, should I have an hair transplant or should I just shave it all? It's good. I think I shaved my hair off 9 years ago, something like that now. 10 years next year. So I wasn't really sure. I was just checking out all the options, but it wasn't appealing to me at that time, and it's probably because it was still still developing, and as you said, it's come a long way itself now. But I myself wish I'd had it done at least a year or two before I did, because I'm quite pleased with mine. And I think
though, if you had, it might not have been as good. Because everything's developed, and certainly with me, you know, when I just started, I know my work's improved tremendously because I'm passionate about it, and I've always thrived to get that impression of a hair follicle. Yeah. And now I've got there. So I think that years ago, it wouldn't have been as good, and people that don't have a barber background either, I think you can see the difference. Yeah,
it's weird because I've never done any kind of barber training, but I've took so much notice and done so much research into hairlines and the way the way kind of male pattern baldness kicks in and things like that. So I can spot when someone's hair's on the way out, or if something doesn't look right, if it's a bit of a cheap turkey kind of hair transplant or a bad SMP job, you can spot it.
Oh yeah.
But not everybody can.
No.
There's a lot of people who I meet day to day don't look twice and think anything about it. But then there may be the odd person who they are aware. I can remember going into a barber's with someone because he wanted his beard trimming. Just going to nip in for 10 minutes, whatever, get sorted out. And I was sat there, and the guy said to me, have you got an appointment? Do you want to get in a chair? No, I'm all right. And he was looking at my head for a while, and he said, you've got a hair tattoo. So he knew about it. Yeah. He was a barber himself, so he'd obviously realised. I said, yeah, and I don't hide it. It's just something I wanted for me. I'm not trying to trick anybody or anything like that. I know some people are, and they're still... I speak to a lot of guys online because since making my videos about having mine done, I get nearly daily messages from
Wow.
people on different platforms asking questions, usually in private. You get the odd comment and things like that on like kind of public domain, but a lot of people, it's quite an embarrassing subject for them, really. So it can be quite sensitive. So you'll get people asking you questions, and they don't want people to know because they're hoping that they could maybe just get that done and just tell people, well, I just chose to shave my hair off, because that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
It just looks like you've taken control and decided to shave your hair off. But
my clients generally say that, like, because it's done in stages, three sessions. The first one is like more sparse than the second one, and so it looks like the hair is growing. So people have said to them, "Oh, you're growing your hair." That's the thing. And also, because if you're doing natural hairlines, someone may look at you and think, are you growing your hair, or there's something different about you? They're not looking straight away if they've got a hairline that just doesn't suit them, because their eyes will go straight to it.
yeah, well, that's why, I mean, you've said to me anyway, you don't do them the kind of straight, kind of boxy hairlines. Like I've mentioned this in some of my videos about when I see kind of like Will Smith and Martin Lawrence with that kind of hairstyle, it's that it suits them. It seems to be kind of, it's almost like it's just a black guy hairstyle. It's not,
in my opinion.
My natural hair never grew that way. It does, and nobody in my family grows that way. It was almost a bit of a Volkswagen Beetle bonnet, really.
Yeah.
Even before it started falling out, it just kind of, it was shaped that way. So having something quite close to that,
yeah.
but then still not going right far back, it kind of just suited.
Yeah, because you can lose your hair a bit and it can recede, but it doesn't mean to say it's always going to recede.
Yeah.
So you just have that.
There's a lot of guys lose a little bit on the sides and it never goes anywhere.
But you wouldn't have a hairline for like an 18-year-old's hairline put on, because, you know, I do age-related hairlines as well, you know, so it suits that person.
Yeah.
But if a black guy goes to the barbers, they generally do the box hairline, and it looks great.
Yeah.
It really does look great on them, but not on Caucasian. And that is my opinion.
Yeah.
It looks horrendous. I will not do. If a guy came and says, I want this, I won't do it. Absolutely no. Because I know that it's not right, it's not natural. And when he goes to the pub and his mates say, what the hell have you had done?
Yeah.
He's not going to say, I chose this. He'll say, blame me. And it's my name on it, and I will not do it.
Yeah. I've seen someone walking around in Barnsley before, and I knew straight away that it was SMP, because it wasn't great. It did look like a helmet, but that was boxy at the front. And that's what also, that was the first thing actually that gave it away before I noticed the rest of it just looking like a kind of Playmobil hairstyle, because it was just so dark over his head. It didn't look like individual hair follicles. It just looked like, you know, when someone blacks out their arm on a tattoo because they don't want to get it lasered off, so they just look like he'd got that on his head.
And it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't, everything's got to match. I've done a colour theory course, so I can, especially for density, I will mix colours, like a redhead. I'll mix colours to blend in as density, because light browns and blondes, because I don't think that charcoal black, even if you dilute it to a really light colour in density, looks right. So I mix the colours to for density for that. It's all right for a bald guy, because you can use the charcoal black and dilute it really light, which I have done with some guys, and it looks fine.
Yeah.
But if you go in, you've got to match it. It's got to match the back and sides.
Yeah.
You can go maybe a shade darker, but it's all about blending in with the sides. And the way I do it, because I have two pots, one for the top and one for the back and sides. So, and they're both different, so that you can blend it in, and it just looks so natural. Because if you use the top to blend in and you're doing scattering, you're scattering the same colour, and you can see it. So that's how I do it.
Yeah. That's it's kind of fallen into the category of a little section I want to talk about because I get a lot of kind of frequently asked questions. One of those is the worry of, well, what happens when your hair goes grey on the sides where the hair still grows? Like, I've got quite dark hair where it does grow. So on the back and sides, that's quite dark. So obviously you've matched it to that.
Yeah.
People were asking me questions saying, well, what happens in 10 years' time when your hair on the sides and your eyebrows and your beard or whatever goes grey and things like that? I don't think people realise that it's a semi-permanent ink, so it does fade away and we have to have top-ups. So when that time comes, I would assume that whichever the SMP artist would always match for the individual.
You need to. You can't just get the documentation out and use what you used.
Yeah.
I do actually call it a permanent ink because it's always going to be there. It'll never disappear. It will get lighter though.
Yeah.
Because you've got to watch how you word things. If you say semi-permanent to somebody, they might think of it like when you put a dye on your hair, it's semi-permanent, and then like 6 washes, it'll be out.
Yeah.
It's not like that. It is like, it will fade. And after like 3 to 5 years, maybe a top up, if they leave it, it will always be there as a shadow.
Yeah.
But it will be there. So when they come back for a recover, then you're matching up again. And that's how you should do it. So it'll always look good. And as your beard and everything maybe getting light and greyer, so is the SMP that's lightening up.
Yeah.
If it's done right, if it's black and too dark.
Yeah, well, this is another thing. I've seen examples where these were the things that put me off for a while before I decided to eventually have it done, and that was people with jet black SMP when they weren't even black-haired.
I don't understand.
People with kind of blonde beards and they've got this jet black SMP.
You're just going to notice it straight away.
It's...
I think that'll come... If... a client asks for it and the SMP artist doesn't know enough and agrees, that's either that way or the training that they've done. There are some bad SMP artists out there.
Yeah.
They may have watched some YouTube videos and think, I could do that. Or there's people that are being trained and then training.
Yeah.
I did mine. I qualified to do. I did the qualification to teach, and then I wanted to become accredited, so I had to do that. That took 2 months. So I'm accredited trainer, and it was 5 years, just under 5 years before I felt that I could. But some people, and I know for a fact, there's some people, because I know of them, that are doing training and. They're doing the course and then training straight away.
Yeah.
So how are they, if people are asking questions in the training, like, how do we do this? How are they answering? They're doing it.
Yeah.
And they leave and they're doing work. When I do my training course, it is an intensive 5-day course, and they will learn everything that they need to know to start working on clients. You get your models first. Yeah. They'll learn colour theory. They'll learn about doing mock-ups and removing large dots. They'll learn the whole thing. They get the manual so they can refer to that. And I'm not going to sit there and say, God, you're going to walk away from here and you're going to be earning all this money, because you've got to put the work in yourself.
You build up a client base.
You have to.
Yeah. And
you can't just think, I'm jacking my job in and going to do this, because it's not going to have a queue of people outside.
Yeah. You've got to do it. Well, it's same as obviously every industry. It's got cowboys, hasn't it? There's some bad tattooists out there. We know there's bad builders out there, whatever it is, and people don't recommend them. And eventually work dries up. So they may bust out of the gate and think, well, I'll just do all these people a really bad SMP job, but they're not going to get the word of mouth, which for something like this, because people don't know enough about it, you rely on other people. Which is why I think so many people contact me because of my videos, because my videos aren't a just a client that's sat straight after having an SMP job.
I don't even do those. You know?
And they sit there and go, yeah, it was great, blah blah blah, and
they're not going to put it up if they sit there and say,
yeah,
what have you done to me?
Yeah,
they're not going to put it up.
I don't trust the ones on the websites. Some of them may be happy. I'm not saying that they're all just pretending, because some people's hair does look great, but I do see a few monstrosities where I think you're not happy with that. So
you can see in their eyes.
Yeah, you've been told that you're getting 10 or 20% off or something for doing a video at the end or whatever it may be. But it's
with mine as well, SMP is really private. So when they come to the clinic, I've got a suite in a converted Georgian house. So overlooking the prison I used to work in, Wakefield. So when I do their photographs, there's a lot of paperwork and they'll sign and think, oh, I don't want to do that. Of the photograph, I says, I don't show your face. It's above the eyes. What I'm showing is the SMP, not you. So I will never, even if they say it's okay, I won't do it. And I don't want to video them because it is a private thing. Not everybody wants people to know about it.
Yeah.
So it is very private and discreet, my work.
Yeah, because even with the pixelated faces, when you put my examples on there, I actually scrolled past me a few times because I didn't even recognise my own head. So I looked at a couple of guys I thought were me. So that's how, people think, well, people's going to recognise. They're not going to recognise you. I didn't even recognise myself.
I just do the pixelated thing, and then I will kind of do a blur around it. So you're just seeing that. So then the blur blurs out that, so it's even better now. Yeah. And I don't mind. I don't mind doing that, and the clients are fine. Yeah, they're fine with that.
But no, I think because of my experience of finding it really hard to come across someone who was honest and authentic about their experience of it, that's what kind of drove me on to make mine, because I thought, I wish someone had made these videos when I was looking. So that's why I've made them, for the ones that are coming now, so the people who are wanting to have it done can see someone who's not connected to a company. He's just had something done by someone that is researched and found, and he's been very honest about it.
Because of your videos, I have had several clients from your videos that when they've come to me, they've said that they loved the honesty. You talked about your journey in the beginning and how it affected you. You videoed when you were coming to the place. You did the videos in my old place, and they loved the fact that you were so open and just spoke from your heart, and it wasn't scripted, because I wasn't there, and you've put them on. And they have come to me from quite far. The furthest one at the minute is from Wiltshire, and they're coming from all over because they loved what they saw with you. And they message you, don't they? I've seen them all on there messaging you and asking questions.
There's a lot of comments on. I think I've got 3 videos about it now. The initial having it done, the follow up after a year, and then a quick check in that I did in August 2023, where I also let my own hair grow a little bit for a few days to show them an example of what it looks like when it grows out of it.
Yeah, I saw that.
So then obviously you have to start trimming it, and suddenly it just starts blending back into looking.
They have to keep it short.
Yeah,
you can't have SMP and think, oh, I shave it every week. It has to be done maybe 1 or 2 days.
Yeah, I'm if I'm going out places, I tend to use like a skull shaver that morning. Every time I go somewhere, I just that's personal preference. I could get away with a couple of days. My hair, where it does grow, grows quite fast still. I was always in the hairdressers needing my hair cut when I was younger, but then I know that a lot of people say not to use like a wet shave and things like that because it doesn't blend so well.
You can. Right, so I've had guys that have come, and because they use the wet shave and the foil, initially it's to get rid of any sign of hairline that's right back here, so they don't want any, sign of the horseshoe. Yeah. So if they use that, it can be blended in, but it's a bigger job because it's like when I did the guy with alopecia. You're picking the picture, the shade of the top, and then you're going lighter and lighter and lighter and sparser, so it's blending in. So you can do it,
Yeah.
but it does take longer.
Because obviously I've lived with this now for about two and a half years. I now know that, like, if I'm in a bit of a rush in the morning and I know I just need to get a quick rinse in the shower and be out on my way, I will use the wet shave on the night before.
Yes.
Because by the time I've slept and I've been in the shower in the morning and I'm on my way out, when I'm doing my day to day, then it looks normal and it's blended because there's already a bit of stubble growing through. So it's timing, really.
It is.
Depending on what you're wanting to do, you just time it. But I suppose it's the same as if you were just shaving your head anyway without the SMP. You would tend to try and keep it as fresh looking as possible when you were going places. And obviously, I mean, if I'm in the house for days at a time, obviously I'll shower every day. I don't always decide to shave my head every day. It just depends on what I want to do. But I'm a bit of an avid hat wearer, even with the SMP, because I like hats, because it's just something I like. So sometimes I can get a little bit lazy and leave it a few days and not actually shave it when it needs it. And I just pop a hat on. Well, we're only going to the supermarket. I'll just put a hat on. So.
Well, when you came, when you'd finish and you came back for that touch up on the side, and then I saw something else. I think it was when you'd started using the skull shaver.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you can see it. So I did some work on that to blend that in better.
Yeah.
Because of that. But if they use the little beard clippers and they take that short, it's great, But if they do it the night before, if they use a foil or a wet shave, by the morning, there's that tiny bit. So it does look good.
Yeah. I found, because I've tried various, I think, do they call them like T-shaped trimmers? Yeah. So certain ones that I'll use cut close enough to do a good job, and then certain ones I just think that they're not good enough to do it. So it depends on maybe the brand or the quality of it, things like that. Obviously, you were using something different to what someone would buy if they just bought a quick 10 quid one off.
No,
eBay
I don't anymore. I used to. I used to in the barber, and I used to spend a lot of money on clippers and the T-liners. But then I started finding different ones. I think there was a brand called Suka or something. It's almost the same, identical as Weil. And I was using that because after a while the other ones were breaking down. And it's just crazy money. So I thought I'll try one of these, see how they are. And they were fine. And so when clients come to have their SMP, I tell them to leave the hair and I will cut it down when they're here so they can see how short it needs to be. Or if they're coming for density, I'll generally cut it down. Because sometimes people think the longer it is, it will disguise it, but it's not the case. It needs to sometimes be a bit shorter.
Yeah.
And then you put the SMP in for guys. Women, it's different because the hair sparseness goes in a different way than men's. But so I'll cut the hair down first if it needs it, and then we put it in with that. But I do it before the client before I start the work.
Yeah. I think for me personally, having this, some people may try certain things and they don't always want to have them done again. For me, I will have it done again because I'm happy with it. And it's probably not for everybody, because there's guys out there, it'll never be enough because they want actual hair that's there.
Uh-huh.
So...
Well, I do the hair systems as well. I kind of do this more, but I did a course in the hair systems, and they are great. They're really great because they've got the hair back, but there's a lot of maintenance with them.
Yeah.
And in summer when it's really hot, they can itch, and you can't really get to do it. You wash them once a week. There's a lot of... You can't just like book a holiday and think, oh my God, I can't because I need to get my maintenance done. So there's a lot of
and then obviously there's more regular costs for things like that, isn't it? Because obviously they're having to keep coming back for things. But it's why I always think that like the SMP thing. Yeah, obviously I'm raving about it because I think it's great, but it's great for someone like me, and it may be great for millions of other guys,
Yeah.
but it's depends
It's
on
the
the
shaving
individual.
of the head.
Yeah.
When they've got hair and it's going and it's looking more sparse and they're losing it and they're kind of holding on to it. It's that getting rid of it that can really be daunting to some guys.
I don't know if it's because as I've got older, so I'll be 38 in March, so I'm just starting to think that maybe I've just accepted it, because obviously I started experiencing my hair falling out early 20s. It started getting thinner then. Didn't start, I don't think I shaved it off until late 20s, maybe 28, something like that. So I all I could think about is, I want a hair transplant. I don't want to lose my hair, and I do gigs, so I'm on stage, and I just kept thinking, I don't want to be this bald guy.
Yeah.
And then as time's gone on, because when I shaved it off, the drummer in one of my bands, Farron, he shaved my hair for me, and we raised £1,000 for charity for breast cancer awareness, just from people, just because I braved the shave, basically. Yeah. But at the same time, now as time's gone on, I'm just kind of more accepting of it, and it's enough for me. But now I've got the SMP and I've got that kind of frame back on my face. I'm not.
It frames your face, doesn't it? The hairline.
I'm not that interested now. And I think it's what you're prepared to put yourself through and what you're prepared to pay to have, whether it be SMP, a hair system, or a transplant. Because obviously there's other implications where you've got to think about. You may need more than one. It's quite expensive. You've got to go under the knife to a certain degree. You've got to have medication, which people aren't aware of. There's a lot of things for the various kind of DHT blockers and things like that. I spent a lot of my 20s looking into that, to the point where I probably could have been a rep for that type of thing. I could have wheeled loads of people in to come and have hair transplants, because I learned a lot about it. Which is what I ended up doing with the SMP. I ended up reading so much before I thought about doing it. I didn't worry as much about that as I would have done with the hair transplant, because it's less invasive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like you say, it's micro needles, and
it's instant results as well, isn't it? No downtime time. It'll be a bit red.
Yeah.
But the next morning, it's generally gone. It's just you see the results on the first session. So yeah, it's a lot easier to have that if you want the shaved look or density add-in than the hair transplant.
Yeah. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, as much as I get a lot of people saying nice things on the internet, it's the internet, as we know what the internet can be like. Yeah. You get a lot of comments from people, and they'll say, well, you look stupid because you'll never get your hair back and things like that. But that's not the aim with this. And I think they're misinterpreting what I'm going for. If I wanted to go for that.
Well, I saw one guy put a comment on and he says, yeah, it's all right, but next time, mate, go to a black guy that does SMP or a black woman, because you want that. I couldn't believe. I thought.
Oh, that straight
box,
line. Yeah. The line's go not there. What I want.
Yeah, you put that.
Yeah, it's not what I want.
Why would you want that?
Yeah, but yeah. So I think some people get the wrong end of the stick, because it's not what I'm not thinking to myself, oh, I've got a full head of hair again.
Do you not look in the mirror and think? Do you forget it's ink? Do you look in and just think that it's shaved? Because I get a lot of guys saying.
Probably for the first 6 months, no, I was very aware, because I would say for the first 2 or 3 months, I was very anxious every time I went anywhere that people would notice it and point it out or question it and stuff, even though I would openly admit to them, yeah, that's what I've had done. Mm-hmm. But I was unsure how people would react to it. And just kind of like standing in different lighting and things like that, or
that can make it look different.
Yeah, and if you're walking down some steps in a public place and people walking behind you and stuff like that, I'm thinking, are they looking at the top of my head? Are they looking at the top of my head? And as time's gone on, I just do actually forget. So if I see myself in pictures or on a video or whatever it may be, or you, like you say, look in the mirror and stuff, I forget about it, and the only time I really remember is when it gets to a few days when it needs to be shaved, and then I'm aware that I just need to shave my head. But that's what I did before the SMP, so my life's not actually changed having the SMP. It's not more maintenance. It's the same maintenance as before. except when I do the maintenance, it looks better.
Yeah.
So, and I think people, that's the other thing, people are worrying about it when they comment sometimes and say, well, you've got to keep shaving your head, you've got to keep, well, I would anyway, because otherwise I look like Friar Tuck. So,
Yeah.
you know, with or without the SMP.
The bit that actually is like, why do you just shave the top of your head and you leave all this at the back and sides? That's the look it would have.
Yeah. But yeah, it's, I don't know, it's, as I said, it's the internet. So people's always going to find something to, and you've got to take most of it with a pinch of salt, because I just accept that is the internet, and there's a lot of people out there who just spend all day looking at strangers' videos and pictures
commenting
and putting
it's nothing to do with them.
Yeah. So I don't worry about it too much, really. I'll sometimes I mean, I get some comments I don't even understand what the point is that they're trying to make, so I don't even respond to it. But if it's something that they may be being negative, I'll just acknowledge what it is, give them a quick sentence to just explain the situation. But then I always thank them for the feedback. I'll always be polite to them, which I think kills people more, to be honest, because I think they're looking.
You're not arguing with them.
They're looking for an argument.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, God, you could do a whole separate episode on just the people on the internet anyway, regardless of what it's about. But no, no, I just want to go and follow on from a few more of those like FAQs. These are things that I get asked all the time. So obviously, I mean, we could probably answer and talk about some of these together. So people ask me quite often, they'll say, "Is it painful?" Which obviously it is. It is a micro needle, but it's still needles sticking in your head, isn't it? So
since you came when we were in Castleford, I had a guy last year in the summer, and he just couldn't stop sneezing while I was doing it, and it was painful for him. So he got some numbing cream, because I can't administer it. I've been checked with the council, and I can't put it on because somebody could be on medication that I don't know.
Yeah,
it could have adverse reaction. So he put the numbing cream on, and it was fine. Didn't feel a thing. So when clients come now, I'll send the link that he used of one of the numbing creams, and just tell them if they want to use that an hour and a half before, put it on. But read up, make sure that you follow the instructions, because it's nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But if you want to put it on, fine. And I've had some SMP myself, and I slapped it on all over my scalp. I didn't feel a thing, because I said it was a girl that came to do the masterclass with me earlier this year, and I think she was a bit nervous, a woman, and so I don't think she went in deep enough, because it's it's faded quite a lot. But I said, you probably end up doing one dot, because if this hurts, I'm not having it done. So she I put all this numbing cream on, and it was so relaxing. I didn't feel a thing.
Yeah, I think it's one of those questions where you can only answer it with, it depends on your own personal pain threshold. I'm covered in tattoos in all random parts of my body. Some areas I were falling asleep while it were being done.
Yeah.
Some areas I were very aware of every second throughout that session. And when I had the SMP, I think for me, I don't know if it's the same for other people that's had it done, my temples, that was quite an interesting area.
Painful area.
The crown area, I literally, I could have fallen asleep.
Yeah,
or rather, I'm a little bit weird. I think I quite enjoy the needles.
There's someone else I had that, well, he's tattooed, he's in a band as well, works at the prison where I work, so he wanted it doing, and he says, I just find it so relaxing.
Yeah.
He's covered in tattoos.
There's a lot of people I know who are covered in tattoos, and they enjoy it. And then there's others, they just really want the tattoos, but they can't hack the pain. But I think, again, like we said, it's about the person and
it is
the area.
A needle going in your scalp.
Yeah.
Even though it's not going as deep as a tattoo, and it's not all of the dragging. I know that some SMP artists are doing strokes, like hair strokes. It's not.
Right.
It's not.
That's not something I would like.
It's just, it's a no-no, because it doesn't look right. So when you're doing the SMP, you just, So, but it's going into the skin. It doesn't bleed, but it's going in. So it's going to have some sort of pain to it.
Yeah. So
And then, like you say, it depends on the person, on their pain threshold.
So we can safely say that there is some pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One of the other things I've been asked is it expensive?
Well, it's cheaper than a hair transplant.
Yes, well, I was about to think. I was thinking it's in comparison to things. You know, what do you class as expensive for something like that? So
I mean, it's all different price for alopecia, for scar coverage, for the top doing. So people will come in and I will assess them and then give them the price. Yours was what, 1,200, wasn't it?
yeah.
And I think that, you know, it's an okay price. I'm not the most expensive and I'm not the cheapest. But one of the big companies, I'd seen, they'd put on one of their things, something like £1,300. If you want to get cheap SMP, pay £1,300. If you want to get it done right, pay £2,500 to £3,000, which is with them. Well, but I'm sorry, but that is rubbish.
I think
Absolutely.
as well, it can depend on the area as well. Because if you've got someone in the middle of London, of course it's going to be more expensive. He's that studio is always going to be quite expensive for them for renting utilities. It's always going to be different to having it done.
But to
up
say
in Yorkshire,
that, exactly. To say that.
It's probably why you're getting people travelling as well, because it's probably still
Yeah.
cheaper than having it done down south.
This one was in Manchester, I think. But you can't do that. I think that really cheap. You know, I've had clients say, "I really like your work," because I answer the phone straight away, whether I'm with the client or not, to acknowledge them. I think it's really important, and my clients know this because I've probably done it to them. But I will tell them I'm with a client, and if they can send me some pictures, soon as I'm done, I will get back to them, and you know, we'll have a chat. So I'm available all the time for clients anyway. It's my own number I give out, unless I'm asleep. So I think it's important to have, if they've taken the time to ring me on something that they're really nervous about, then I want to answer them and get them, you know, like, I'm here, but I can't speak at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's really important. So I asked them then to check out my Facebook, Instagram, look at my work, and you can always tell. I say to anyone, I said, if you want to do, if you're looking for an SMP artist and you look at the pictures, make sure when you go to the clinic that the pictures that you've looked at are from that clinic. Because if they're not, because a lot of people are taking other people's pictures. So I tell them to do the research, to check my work, and then, you know, they can see for themselves. So saying that somebody that I charged, like, for your, I think things have gone up anyway, but is cheap, is not. You check their work.
Yeah, and this, it's the same with everything, isn't it? Even with like their hair transplants, because people see, £1,500 including flights, and you can go to Turkey or Poland or whatever, and it's going to be cheaper than going to a London or Manchester clinic. But then they're showing you pictures that may be from the guy that's trained the other 5 people that work there, and you're getting one of those 5 who are not capable of the results that you're expecting. So,
a lot of guys that have had transplants abroad, and I'm not saying that it's bad at all, you know, hair transplants in Turkey, but some that have been to me have said that it didn't work, and it, you know, and it was so absolutely painful with the needles going in to numb the scalp.
Yeah.
But some are really happy, and then they have the SMP to add density.
Yeah, I've seen good and bad from everywhere, really. Some of the places I considered, you know, I was looking at a guy for a hair transplant in my mid-20s, and he was in India, and he was one of the guys that helped develop one of the new techniques that they use. So, but then you could get the same. Well, you could get, you know, just kind of looking on the map, there was just down the street, there was other clinics that were a third of the price that he were. He was still cheap compared to England, but these guys were undercutting him massively, but the results they were knocking out,
No.
I can't even believe people even went to them. So
I mean, this is like the hair transplant and the SMP is on your scalp. It's there, and if it's rubbish, it needs lasering off. But you know, you have to do your research with whatever you do, but especially this.
yeah, that was something I was nervous about when I were on my way for my first session, because I thought, I've no idea what I'm letting myself in for here, because you don't know, do you, when you're turning up somewhere new? So I'd never met you before, and I was thinking, well, I've had lasering done on my arm and on my stomach for tattoos that I had when I was younger that I don't want anymore, and I thought, I don't fancy having lasering on the top
Painful,
of my head.
isn't it?
Yeah. You can smell your skin burning, and you can smell like arm hair burning.
Oh man!
Obviously, I wouldn't be smelling any hair burning on the top of my head, so that was the only positive from that part. But you know, I was so relieved, even just after the first session, that I thought, right. So I know that this is getting built up over 2 more sessions after this, and I really thought to myself, thank God that this is not gone bad, because I was really freaking out about it.
Well, I draw the hairline on, you look at it, we discuss it, and then it's done. It's not just me putting a hairline on and saying you're having that. So yeah, and I work on my own. It's my business, and yeah, I would like to expand, but I would have to, you know, if I was training people, they would be taught exactly how I work. But I'm very passionate, so when I have a client that comes, I have that one client in that day.
Yeah.
Might take 4 hours, and that's me finished. I don't ever want to be a conveyor belt business. I'm not. I'll do a consultation that'll come in afterwards, but certainly a first session and a second. I'll never do 2 first, 2 second. Maybe I could do a third and then another third if they're very small jobs, like a crown area.
Yeah.
But the top of the hair, the head, and with people travelling, and if they get stuck in traffic and they have to delay it, I have to send that on to someone else. And I don't want to ever be tired. I love what I do, so I just do that person in that time.
Yeah, I imagine it's quite scary, the idea of having other people doing that work alongside you, if you had 1 or 2 other artists in the studio with you, because yeah, they're doing the work, but it's your name that's on the line if it goes wrong.
Are they as passionate? That's the thing, you know. Are they going to think, oh God, I've got to finish, and someone's turned up late and they need to finish? Are they going to rush? I won't let my client go out of the clinic until I'm happy. So after each session, I'll be like looking, and we're like, no, I need to do another couple of dots here. Even though they're not dots, they're not round dots. They are like hair follicles. I won't let them go until I'm happy. So are they going to be as passionate? And this is the only thing that holds me back.
Yeah, I can remember when I came back. I think I came back for that 4th time, because there was a little section on the side of my head that I just wanted a slightly different shape into it, which you changed for me.
I think it's when you do it as well, when the redness is there.
Yeah.
And it's like, I daren't touch it now.
I go very kind of red and blotchy, even when I have a tattoo. Different. Yeah. So even when I had that done, you actually saw something like near my crown and said, oh, actually, I'd like to just add, which obviously that benefited me. It was taking up more of your time, but you insisted that I think it needs this and it'll look perfect then. So you just did little extras for me. So that kind of stuck with me, really, that I thought, she's not rushing me out of the door. She wants to make sure I've got the results that I'm after. You want your client
to be happy. And if I see something, I can't unsee it, you know? So I'll look at the pictures, and if I see like a little bit, it doesn't matter if there's a little bit higher or whatever. I mean, I've had clients in that says, I want it kind of a bit uneven to make it more natural, that it looks like one side's going back a little bit more. And they can wait sometimes if I notice that till the next session, or I'll call them in. But if it's something major, if someone rings and says, oh, it's the redness gone, can you do this? They'll come straight in. Regardless, they will come back in. But yeah, it's I look at the pictures, I zoom in. When I was having Colin, my barber, working with me, they'd go out and I'd be like, oh my God, did you see that? He said, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm zooming in. I'm like, there's a couple of impressions that I've missed there, but it's better to be like that. I think, passionate about your work.
I mean, you know, there's the passionate side where you want it to be right because you want to make people happy. They're going away, but then also there's the business side. It is a procedure of some sort that they're going to need to come back for. Obviously, we talked about top ups, so if you don't do a good job, they're not going to come back to you. They're going to just go, oh, well, they made a right mess of that, so I'm going to go to try so and so, which is what people do. I've done it with tattoo artists. I'm set on one night right now, but I've had others in the past, and I won't go back to them again because I didn't have a good experience or I weren't happy with what they were done. Hence the lasering. So
did you have the one? I don't know whether it was you, but you were having a tattoo done, and you'd found a really good guy in Headingley. It wasn't.
No,
you, was
no,
because this guy had found a really good tattooist, and so he'd booked the block, but the poor guy died. The tattooist,
right.
And it was like, oh my God, you know. And well, if he did find someone else, but yeah, it's like you'll only not go to them again unless they die.
No, I have been. My tattooist is based in Wakefield, actually. So,
all right.
Yeah, all my ink needs now are all based in Wakefield.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's good. All under one umbrella.
Yeah, so I think I've got tattoos booked for January. That's the first time since probably 2019.
Yeah.
So that's I think as you get older as well, you can't seem to hack it as well. I can't, and I've spoke to a few guys that I know just kind of like across the rock scene, you know, some guys in their 50s, and they've said, "Oh yeah, I find it harder work having it done now."
The tattoos with the pain.
Yeah, just.
Would you use numbing cream then?
I've never used it.
It's good for the scalp when you come back for your top up.
I don't mind the head. It wasn't that bad really,
wasn't it?
Compared to, I mean, I've had elbows and hands done, and I've got all sorts of things I consider like fingers, and I wanted something inside one of my ears and stuff like that. Wow. So I've got a list of stuff on there. So yeah, I've had some really like uncomfortable ones. Then you have like certain parts, the inside of your forearm and stuff like that, which is I can barely even really notice it's happening. To be honest with you, I'll just sit watching a YouTube video and drop to sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's
at least there's the option there for numbing cream for people. I've had some clients, like I say, that find it really relaxing, and others that I have to keep having a break with because they just can't hack it, and it is quite painful.
Yeah. I see videos of people on the internet just going for the first tattoo, and they only touch them for a split second and they jumped across the room. So again, like I say, it's the individual, isn't it? So it depends how much pain they can take.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not. No, numbing cream. I had my little tattoo with the infinity and the paw prints for my dogs. And that was okay, but in one part where he was dragging it, it did feel like it was burning a bit.
You've got so it's on the wrist. That's one thing I found on my right arm, because I've got more on that wrist than the other at the moment, and I felt like someone was just holding a lighter against my skin.
It felt like it was burning.
It was just.
I do want another one. It's the only one I've got, so you'll have to tell me the place you go to.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be easy for you to access, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. I do want one, but and I'd tattooed my knee before, only because I was trying out the needles for SMP, and seeing how painful it was, and trying the ink, and it's painful. Yeah. So I wouldn't, if I had to have numbing cream. But when I was trying it out to see how painful it was, I don't know why I put the ink in. So now I've got like these big dots, because then I coloured it in to see how deep, if it went deeper, if the colour changed and stuff. So I was experimenting on my knee then.
Right.
And so I'm trying to bring it out with the.
I imagine the knee must be quite painful anyway, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Elbow wasn't great.
It really was when you fit. But now because I did the course on salt saline ink removal, and it does for like if you did a big impression, because when you're doing like that all the time, your wrist might jerk. So there's a way you can bring it out, and I'm doing that on my knee, so I have to numb it up, and then I have to scratch it to open it, and then put the stuff in. painful. So I've got a week, you know, my pain threshold is very low.
Right.
For needles.
See, I'm not too bad with it, but I don't respond well to them. Every tattoo I've ever had, I've gone red, like,
No.
and sometimes for an extra day or two longer than I was told it was going to be. And that's pretty much everything I've ever had done. And even when I've had piercings done, it ends up ballooning and going red.
That's one thing with the numbing cream, you know.
I keep
that
coming
it
back,
doesn't. It doesn't. The redness is not as dramatic as it is without it. You know, so when people use the numbing cream, it's better for photographs as well. It doesn't go as red, so that's good. Because I have some clients that, especially if they're like really pale and you know, on the Fitzpatrick scale, and they've got, you know, their undertones are very light and that, they can be like purple, and it's, you know, they're so red. It's harder for the photographs, and then everything looks different then, you know.
Right.
SMP for the few days it takes to settle down.
Yeah, it took mine a few days, and then when that settled, I was like, oh, I'm really pleased with how this looks, because my head just swells up when I have something kind of like needle in it, and the same with my arms and my hands. In fact, when I had my hands tattooed, one of my hands looked like a boxing glove on the second day, because it just swelled up massive.
Bloody hell. Gosh. But yours looks good. It's just so noticeable, but naturally.
Yeah, I'm pleased with it. Like I said, I mean, it's you'll get positive and negative comments from people online and things like that, but it's mostly positive. And at the end of the day, it's only the same as if people have something, you know, look how many people have like lips done and boobs done and bum implants, and you get
the big lips.
Yeah, you get guys having like pretend pecs and abs added in with the implants and stuff, and people are having all sorts of stuff done, body modifications and things like that. And I don't really care that if they do or they don't. It doesn't affect me. So you know, as long as people aren't hurting themselves, just let them do it. And
I think
that's what I think of the SMP.
For women, it's been more out there, hasn't it? They've had the eyebrows, they have the lips done. Some
it's
are
a
nice
thing
and some
now,
are
isn't
really
it? Yeah.
big. And then they have the lipstick done, tattooed on. They have implants here. And with men, it's never been so much about that. But now, especially with celebrities having SMP.
Yeah.
Sean Ryder, when I watched him on Gogglebox, and I was like, oh, God, he's had SMP. But he apparently lost his hair. And, yeah. So there's celebrities having this done now.
Yeah.
Which is putting it out there for people. It's like, wow, they didn't know about it. There's still a big percentage that don't know about.
Yeah, and
this.
I think as well, they probably just assume because a celebrity's had it done that it's probably just going to be a really expensive procedure that only a celebrity can have. So I think word's going to gradually get around that people, you know, just as general public, we can have it. But yeah.
There's companies, though. You know, you've got your big companies in anything, and they will charge an absolute fortune. And the thing is, are they that person that owns it doing it? No, it's other people that they've trained up.
Yeah.
And so people think, oh, I'm going to go and have it done by this company because they're bound to be good.
That's what appealed to me, is the fact that when I read reviews about your work, it was one person that runs this company and does it themselves, and you would assume that they're going to be quite thorough and quite passionate, because it's them and them only. So, you know, you've got someone high up who owns a studio that's got 10 artists.
Yeah.
You make a complaint to them, they just think, well,
it's one.
Yeah.
They're not bothered. I don't think nobody likes a bad review, but for a big company, it's just like, whatever. For a small company, that's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, because a handful of reviews can really kill a company, can't they, these days?
I've had all 5-star, so I'm really, really happy about that. Yeah. I mean, not everybody leaves reviews, and I think sometimes it's because they're frightened that somebody might see it and they don't know that they've had the procedure.
Yeah, yeah.
There's always that.
Yeah, because if it goes through Facebook, it's going to show up on their account, and all their pictures going to be there on the review. And it's same with Google. If they've not got something that's quite a
Oh, yeah, of
private
course,
email,
yeah.
it will come up with their
And where
Google
they've done it
picture.
before, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. So
So
if anyone
people-
goes in, and they'll see where they've left a review.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it does mean so much for a small business to get good reviews, or to get the nice review put on.
Yeah.
It really does.
It encourages other people. It gives them confidence as well.
Mm.
Because I've had the same when I brought out my first book and it went on Amazon. It was selling, but then I really, really needed the reviews from people. So I encouraged people on social media. If you've bought the book and you enjoyed it or you didn't enjoy it, please just put a review on there. And the more reviews that went on there, the more people bought it afterwards, and it started spreading it around, because people think, well, I'll spend my money on that, whether it be SMP, whether it be a product, whatever it is, because they can see positive reviews. And it's the same with anything, isn't it? You're going to buy a fridge freezer, you're going to look at the reviews, aren't you? And you think, well, that looks like it's worth the money.
You do go to the majority. There's always somebody that may put something bad on just for the sake of it. But I make it really easy because I send them the link as well. I send them the photographs that I've made of them, a small before one and then the after. And then when they're finished, I'm like, there's the link. So it's just so easy for them to just go in and do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do meet. They really are important to a small business.
Oh, definitely. Right. Shall we have a little break?
Yeah,
and then we'll top up drinks. And we shall be back.
Ricky the Rockstar, a music-related story for children written by Matt Black. A book that teaches kids about the importance of friendship. Available now on Amazon.
Beyond the Nether, How Not to Live with a Mental Illness. The debut non-fiction novel from Matt Black. Available on Amazon.
Okay, we're back, and it's good because I can start a different subject with you. So I wanted to talk to you about you've won an award recently for your work.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I won the Hair Loss Clinic of the Year award, which I didn't know about. I was on Facebook looking at notifications, and then it was some company had put. It was in my notifications about awards, and I thought, how come I never know about awards? And I looked in, and there was my name, Follicle Illusion. I was, what the hell's this? It was like the finalist in the Beauty Industry Awards for Yorkshire. So I contacted them, and I was like, is this, you think, is this sort of like a scam? But it was real, and I said, how have I been picked? And apparently they do, they said that they were doing, finding different businesses for 3 months, and the best ones they put through, and then you get the chance then to ask people to vote for you. So I went along to that in October, and the date that the awards were on was the day that I lost my dad 4 years ago. So when I saw that the date was the 22nd of October, I didn't think, oh God, no. I just thought of it like, wow, this is a good sign. It was more a positive thing for me.
Yeah.
So when I went with a friend, and they did the awards first, and I was sat there and I thought, right, all the time I was like visualising myself winning this award, because I've done a lot of, I listened to a lot of audiobooks about law of attraction and everything like that. And it's all about your visualisation and the way your vibration of how you are, trying to be happy all the time. So you're like up here rather than down at the bottom. And I said to my friend, I said, I'll have to say it like this, but when I win the award, will you video it? And she was like laughing and said, yeah, I will. So I was watching it, and then there was about 20 odd categories. And then the hair loss one came up for the hair loss category. And they were going through them all, and then they said, and the winner is Follicle Illusion. And I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't speak. I was like, I got up there, and everyone else, apart from one, they got their award and they didn't want to say anything. I was like, I need to say something. But I couldn't. I was just so emotional. And then I was saying about, the date of my dad dying, and I thought it was a good thing, and just totally over the moon. Absolutely. It was amazing to say how I've been, from where I've come from, leaving the prison service, doing the barbering, and then really focusing on this. It was just surreal. It really was.
Yeah, I saw the video, and obviously, you were overwhelmed
I was like
with
a
emotion.
blithering idiot when I look back. I'm like, oh,
but it was so
my gosh.
nice to kind of see and hear the audience really getting behind you, because they could tell that you were emotional, and obviously you mentioned the date and things like that, and people, they really kind of got on board with it, and they were cheering you on, really.
Yeah, it
and
was
they were
really
being,
nice.
because some audiences can be very impatient, wanting someone to speak, and they were with you all the way through, which were nice to see.
Yeah, because everyone that had won was like, "Wah!" And you think, what are you going to do? But I just had the visualization of me winning all the time in my mind. But when it happened, I just couldn't speak. I didn't scream or anything. I was like, and they thought I wasn't there because there was about 6 people who had been called for awards that weren't at the awards. So because I was like just sat in my chair and they thought that I wasn't there, and I got up then, it was amazing. Then I rang my mum and told my mum, and she was over the moon. But yeah, it was good. Brilliant.
No, well done. Congratulations.
Thank you. Hopefully you're the first of many.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there may be more to come, because obviously you are really passionate about what you're doing. You care about what you're doing, and you when we have conversations, you never talk like you know it all. You're still always kind of looking for new things to learn about it, because obviously it's gonna, even though it's come a long way, as we've said, since from when it started, it's probably going to be ever evolving. They're probably going to find other ways and new techniques and things to kind of improve the results of it. So you'll probably have to move with the times with that, I imagine, like every artist would.
I mean, I've got some really brilliant needles that I use now, and the ink that I use is really good. And I've like perfected my impressions. And I now use a cordless machine, which is a lot easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, just keeping. The thing is never to get complacent, and I never think that I'm ace, mate. I don't, I'm just like, I'm pretty subdued, and when I left the prison service, it took me about a year to get my self-confidence back, because it was knocked out of me in that place. It was horrendous. So, and I was bullied. So, it took me a long time, even with the barbering, to think that I was okay. And the same with this, but this took longer. But yeah, I'm at a stage now and I look at my work and I think, yes, I'll show them. I'll show my pictures on the other SMP groups, which I never did. But now I feel confident about it, but not big-headed, because I can look at my work, and then when the client comes in for the second or third, I'm like, right, I've seen something, I need to do this. So I don't think, it's absolutely brilliant. I like my work now.
Yeah.
I'm happy with my work, but you constantly strive to be the best for yourself.
Yeah. I don't know where I've read it, but it's come to my mind about saying you only need to be better than the person you were yesterday. So it's just constantly working on yourself and what you do to improve. And I completely relate to the part where you're talking about being confident, but it's not big-headed about what you do. With not just myself, multiple kind of musicians that I know, we're the same. We know what we're worth, we know what we're capable of, and you don't settle for anything less, really. You'll just keep pushing, but also you understand that there's probably people who they may not be as good, but there's people out there that they may be better than you, and you just strive to be as good as them in the future. So there's, we never stop learning, do we?
Exactly, and you've got people that you you follow, and you like their work. Not everyone that's been in the business for years, and who have got a massive following and get clients every day are good. It just means they're probably doing the same thing over and over again and not looking how to improve. especially hairlines. I know I go on about it, but it's so important. Whereas I will, strive to make sure that people get the look that they want. And you know that when the client will look in the mirror for the first time after the first session and they've not had their hairline for God knows how many years, and they get emotional. They're like, I've got my hairline back, and it's just so nice. It's very rewarding.
Yeah.
But I've spoke to other SMP artists, and it's when they say, "Oh yeah, I know your work," and it's like, what? How do you know me? This is how I'm like. It's how would you know me? But they probably do. They'll follow me, but I wouldn't be like, well, of course you will. I'm the best. But
it's something people can find. They'll find
that.
you accidentally though, won't they, as well?
Yeah.
Because they're looking for it. It's probably there's probably quite a lot of people searching for SMP on the internet, looking for examples, looking for companies, looking for artists. They're going to find you because you've got the reviews as well, which helps. That kind of pushes you out there. So there's going to be people coming across your work. They've not had you recommended. They've just found you online because you are well reviewed, very popular in that sense. So,
and your YouTube video, when they've been looking on YouTube, and some of the guys that I've spoke to that have come from miles away have said that they came across your video, and when they watched it, it was confirmation for them to choose me, because it wasn't me doing the interviewing. So how do you like your SMP? It came from you, and when they've come across you, that's it. That they've decided, and they liked the way you spoke, and the video that you did in the clinic and everything. So yeah, it's good that it's there because they're getting a true picture of someone's experience.
I think as well, because it may be down to my lack of editing skills, but I just keep it straightforward. I don't put any kind of over-the-top flashy stuff on there. I'm not what I see kind of videos where they'll have the 360 cameras spinning around them and they look like a male model doing it. That's not my kind of thing. So mine's just very much like the normal guy, and they probably can just relate to that because I am just a normal guy, they probably just kind of see it and think, well, actually, if he can do it, then I can do it, and if he's happy with it, I'm probably going to be happy with it as well.
They've related to your story as well, like how it's affected them losing their hair.
Yeah.
And some at a young age, and it's like when they've talked to me and they've said, it's finding someone that's the same as me and I'm not alone, and that's what they've wanted. Because I think it is, they like to be private because they probably think they're the only one that's going through it.
Yeah, well, because it is such a lot of people, they get picked on when their hair's when it's falling out, and to be honest, you get picked on less when you actually shave it all off or you just do something about it. It's that process of it actually falling out that people start picking on it, which is where it started for me.
With guys, that isn't it?
Yeah,
it's women don't do it. They'd be like, oh, it's okay, your hairs look fine. But guys, they do.
There's always been that. It's been like that for a long time. I know things are kind of changing up in recent years, but it's that locker room mentality where guys just like. If a woman has an haircut, women go, "Oh, you look brilliant," blah blah blah. Where can I have that done and things like that. If a guy has an haircut, whether it looks good or not, they say, "Who's done that for you? I'll get them for you."
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
and it's just like you've lost a fight with a lawnmower, and it's just all the old school jokes, and it's never gone away. That's just what guys do, and it still happens now.
But it hurts some guys,
Yeah, and
especially about losing the hair.
Yeah, in my 20s, I was distraught when I found out that it was going, and there's a lot of guys that probably felt the same way. Don't get me wrong, it's not the case for everybody. I've got a good friend who used to play in a band I was in, and he's got a shaved head, and he's a bit older than me. And when he was growing up, his hero was Yul Brynner, so he didn't mind.
He was a good-looking guy.
Well, he didn't mind. He's like, well, it just made me look a bit more like him, so he was happy with that.
Yeah.
So it's not it's not devastating to everybody because it's not that important to everybody, but to some people it is, and to me it really was. I don't feel like it's as important to me now. I would rather pay for some holidays than pay for a hair transplant and go through all the bits and bobs that come with that.
You've got to sleep like sitting up for a week, when they've had it.
Yeah.
I was chatting to a guy the other day and he said, you've just got to sit in this chair for a week.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't do that.
But again, like obviously you do the SMP, you do the hair systems. The hair system's not something that appeals to me. The SMP does because it works with my lifestyle. I've got quite a hectic lifestyle. I'm doing a lot of things all the time. I can't really cut time out to deal with the maintenance of that. And then also, I can't really put time aside to be stressing about a hair transplant that's probably not quite as thick as what my original hair was. So I don't want all that stuff. I just need to, I've got things to do and, projects to be getting on with and life to live. So it works for me like that. Some people, it may be more important to them, so a hair system might be ideal for them. They may have got the flexibility to do that, or if it's someone with a hair transplant, they may be able to afford to do that and they want to give up 2 or 3 years worth of holidays, or they may have a really high paying job and it might be a pittance to them. So, but for me, I'd rather go away.
With the definitely. But with the hair transplants, what you'll find is the result sometimes it's not as dense as what they thought. So they want the SMP. However, they have to wait a year,
to find out. Yeah, because they
have to wait a year from the treatment. They can't have the SMP done until after a year.
Yeah.
Whereas before, if they know that they're going to have a hair transplant and they know that it's going to be they've got sparse hair, they can have the SMP first, which I've done, and then 2 months later they can have the hair transplant. So yeah, I've done people that have had hair transplants and they've had SMP to make it look more dense.
Yeah, I have spoke to quite a few people that have had hair transplants, and a lot of the guys, they're still, again, obviously I mentioned some guys have to take medication. It's like a testosterone blocker, basically,
right?
Because that's what it is that's killing off the hair follicles in your bloodstream. I think it is, if I remember right. It's been a while since I've looked into this because it's not something I've considered for a long time. But they're still having to use things like the hair fibers. It's almost like a pepper pot that you kind of shake over your head, which is something I used in the last year and a half. They are. I used it when I was losing my hair, and it was the last kind of year and a half, and I was putting it on there, and it was like a magic trick.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if it was really windy or rainy, that kind of messed it all up, and you couldn't go swimming with it, and you'd worry about it on holiday and stuff.
Yeah.
But there needs to be some hair there for it to stick to, because the moment it starts really going, which once it started going at the back as well, there was nothing for it to go on then.
Same with SMP, when people want the SMP and they have to have enough hair for you to put that in without it looking stupid.
Yeah, because otherwise you have a bald patch with little impressions all over it. So
Same with that stuff.
Yeah.
Would be...
So again, there is no kind of perfect answer for all, is there? It is down to the individual. It's just there are a lot of guys that would work well with a hair transplant. There's a lot of guys where SMP is perfect for them. It works perfectly for me.
It's a good look though now, isn't it?
Oh, massively.
Years ago, it was like a thuggy look.
Yeah, I think people, your likes of David Beckham's probably helped with that, but I mean, it helps if he'd got like a really good looking face, so he could get away with having a skinhead. So he's had pretty much every hairstyle going, and everyone's copied it, hasn't he? So I think if it's people in the public eye who are influential and they do a certain thing, there's a lot of guys I see now who run kind of like fitness channels, and they'll sign up to my fitness app and stuff like that, and they've just got a shaved head, and I can tell that it's not SMP. They've just got a shaved head, and they've just done it by choice because it's easy for them. They're too busy focusing on meal plans throughout the week and working with clients and doing their own personal workouts so that they look abtastic. They're not interested in messing around with hair because they're probably getting hot and sweaty all day. So it's a convenience thing as well. I find it really easy, just kind of making sure that it's nice and short. And then when I do a gig, especially if it's with a band, you're just drenched in sweat by the end of it, and you just need to just get showered, put some new clothes on, and I'm not going to mess around with hair and all that type of stuff. When I get out of the shower, it's one wipe for the top of my head with a towel, and I'm ready to go. So,
that's brilliant, isn't it?
But obviously, coming up to me before shaving my head, it was a case of, well, I've got to dry it, then I've got to think about styling it in ways that covers up the bits, but I don't want it to look like a sweep over, so I've got to angle things from different ways so it looks like a messed up look, but it's covering areas that are a little bit thinner. And then I'm going to put the stuff on with the fibres, then I'm going to spray it, or you put mousse on it so you give it volume so it looks like it's thicker than what it is, then spray it again. And
a lot of work.
I would spend sometimes an hour after being showered and dried and all that stuff, and messing around for an hour with my hair. And I can remember getting really stressed out at times and worried about it. And then even at shows, I do shows like on kind of the theatre circuit and stuff like that. And whenever there was a band member doing like an instrumental part or a solo or something, I'd zip into the dressing room, check my hair, knowing that I've got wet through, sweaty, and all my hair, all the areas that have been styled are all starting to move.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to restyle it and ruffle it around. I think, well, I've got a minute and a half to do this, so if I don't get it right now, I've got to just deal with it. And I'm spraying it with all sorts of stuff. I can understand why obviously people feel that way, because I felt that way, but I'm so glad I'm not in that place now. Yeah. Because that is just, well, for anyone that done any kind of like live shows or even standing up and getting an award in front of people, it can be quite stressful. You feel like you're under a lot of pressure when there's a lot of eyes on you, and the idea of having all that extra on top, worrying about that, nobody needs it. You know, you're not going to focus on what you're doing. If I was accepting an award and I was worried about my hair thinning in front of people, I'd be worried about that and not thinking about what I'm saying in an acceptance speech. So, and that's what I was doing at gigs. I was really focused on the hair rather than actually just doing the show. And I know I'm not alone in that. There's a lot of musicians I've spoke to the same, and just guys general day to day, just going into offices and things like that, terrified about standing under strip lights because they know that it's going to really show everybody how thin their hair is and stuff like that. People that I know that wear hats all the time, and then they're made to take them off if they want to go into a club or whatever because it's not part of the dress code. And I mean, I've had it before. I'd go somewhere, wear a hat, and they'd say you need to take your hat off, and you're going into a place, and obviously if your hair's all a little bit kind of patchy, but it's not styled, so it just looks ridiculous. It's not a fun experience for people, and I know it sounds really vain as well, but there's so many guys that are affected by this, and women as well. But I think people are more forgiving with women because it is. People see bald guys all the time. You don't see a lot of women with thinning hair, but obviously it does happen.
Oh, there's a lot.
But people act like it's and people act like, well, it doesn't matter about guys. You know, Sodom. It just a bald guy, just shave it off and get on with it. But that's been the mentality for a long time. Same with guys' mental health, which it affects that as well, because they're not allowed to put their hand up and go, oh, I'm really not happy about this. But like you said, women are much more supportive to each other. It's got better in recent years. I think from maybe around 2013 onwards, I've noticed a jump in support for mental health in general, but for men as well, to kind of open up. There's a lot of good things going on right now. I don't know if you've heard of like Andy's Man Club.
Oh no.
set up a number of years ago by a family, and that someone within their circle, he basically took his own life, and they meet up every Monday at 7:00, and it's just basically guys can get in there and just they pass a ball around in a circle, and if you can you can either, when the ball comes to you, you can choose to speak. If you don't want to, you can just pass it on and just keep listening.
Do you know they've done that? They've brought it into one of the soaps, Emmerdale, when I think one of them was really depressed, and they kind of all got together in the pub, the guys, and so yeah, it's like putting it in the soaps for people to know that it's okay for a guy to be feeling low and down.
Yeah.
And there is support out there.
Yeah.
Because it's always been a thing, isn't it, with guys? If you say to your mate, I feel oh, what's up with you? You know.
Yeah. And it's like my dad was brought up in that way, where he was just kind of like, oh, boys don't cry, and if you fall over, you just get up, dust your knee off, and get on with it and stuff like that. And even in my dad's like last few years, he only just started kind of opening up to me, really, to talk about emotional things, and things that were on his mind, and things on his, get stuff off his chest. And I think it's my generation that's we're the adults that are now seeing the change.
Yeah.
The younger people in the teens and 20s, they've walked into life
there,
with that support being there, and it's still not where it needs to be for everybody.
Being depressed years ago, it was, you would never say to anyone that if you were suffering from depression and you were on antidepressant, it was frowned upon.
Oh yeah, I mean
now it's totally different.
The first time I kind of experienced that was, or being aware of it, because I was like late teens, but I didn't really know what it was, and I thought, I'm not telling anybody that I feel like this, because I thought people's going to think I'm a bit, so I'm just never said anything. And then it was only when I got into kind of mid-20s, I started kind of recognising and putting two and two together. And then as it got towards late 20s, I was very much aware. And then I went and seek some help and things like that. And that's not all just because obviously hair was falling out. There was a number of things. Yeah. But that was the awful icing on the really crappy cake at the time, to be having that happening. And to some guys, it affects them massively. To some guys, it only affects them a little bit. I imagine almost every woman it probably affects, because it's not something that just happens as like most guys will lose some hair at some point in their life. It's not usually the case with women unless it's something like alopecia or stress or something that comes along that's like that. And I think so those circumstances, people, they are kind of more forgiving when it happens to a woman. And I'm not saying it's any easier because the support's there, because it's still awful for anybody if it's almost like when something's happening to your body that you can't control. Obviously, nobody likes getting older, but we just have to learn to accept that that's what happens. We get a little bit wrinklier and a little bit saggier and stuff like that. When we do things to ourselves, say I eat 10 muffins a day for 6 months, there's no surprise that I'm going to put weight on in 6 months' time. That's my own doing. And if I can reverse that at any time, you can't do that when hair's falling out. Yeah. It's just going to, if it starts going, it's because it starts going and that's it. And there's no way of stopping it. You can't just say, well, I'll just stop eating muffins, because that's not going to stop it. So it's a weird thing to deal with, especially when you're younger and you're not kind of... You're not quite as strong in that sense. You're still learning about... There's things... I thought I knew it all when I was in my 20s, and I knew nothing. When I look back now, and I think I wish I could just kind of push the information I've got in my mind now and my views now into my younger self, because... But you don't listen when you're younger. No. Most people don't. Don't get me wrong. I'm just generalising, because there are a lot of people who... They kind of beyond the years, really. I meet people 22-year-old, and they act like they've lived on this earth 60 years, and they're so knowledgeable and they're so logical.
Mature in themselves, aren't they?
Yeah, but I wasn't.
No, I wasn't. I was a child. I joined the prison service at 33, and I was just like a child, carried on and loud and yeah, I think I was very immature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's we'll kind of be outspoken and say things in front of people, not really, sometimes unintentionally offending others and things like that. And it might be to do with people's appearance or image and stuff, and it might just be you're thinking it's banter, but you don't realise what effect it's having on people until it starts affecting you yourself. So,
Exactly.
Which is something I noticed when I was losing my hair, and anybody had a bit of an idea of it, and they were only having, like you say, lads banter, having a bit of a joke, completely fine from their side of things, and you're just laughing along with it, making the joke with them. But you're going home and you're thinking, oh my God.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and you just don't know what to do, because you don't want to shave it off because you feel like you've given up on it then. But then what else do you do? So there's all these things that's come out over the years, and all these shampoos and creams and different things that you can put on your head, and eat this, don't eat that, don't wear hats, blah blah blah, all these random
all
things.
Sorts of things that they blame on it.
Yeah, and it's that they're not effective because there's no way of stopping it yet, because they don't know how to stop it. And the only I've said to Libby that the only time I would ever consider having an hair transplant at this point now in my life is if they could clone hairs, because if then they could take one hair from the back of your head, and you could have as many as you want, as many as you could pay for, because then you would have the density that you want. You'd have hair better than you ever had when you were 18 years old. So I would never think about,
because when they take it from like the FUE, the follicle extraction unit, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
When they've taken it on, I've got a guy coming Friday, and he's had the hair transplant, but all the back's sparse, so it hasn't come back. So he's got all these like patches all over.
Yeah.
And the SMP will look great, but so you move in like maybe one problem, and then it's going on the back.
Yeah. Well, it's because originally they actually used to cut like a strip, almost like a school ruler out of the back of your head, and then they'd take all the hair follicles from that and they'd pull your skin together. It's almost like getting a bit of a facelift, because then they'd sew it back together so that people would have a big stitched up scar at the back of the head. But the plan with that is that when you're growing your hair, the hair at the back of the head would hang down over it and you'd never see it, which is the same with the FUE, but that's more scattered individual. It's some kind of almost like pen device that they use to take it out, and that isn't as noticeable, but still, you still need to let the hair grow down. But it doesn't really work well with, in 2023, modern haircuts, and people don't
skin
have
fades and
that's
stuff.
the thing. So you can't have a skin fade, so you're still restricted. You can't have, if that's if you wanted that style, but if you wanted to grow long hair, then you're laughing. But then it may not be as thick as you want it to grow long hair. So, and as you know, if you're thin on top, usually you would go shorter on the sides to make the top look a bit bulkier. So you still got the stress and the restrictions even after you've had something done. So that doesn't appeal to me. Again, like I said, just too much to think about and too much to worry about at this point. And it's might be for somebody else, but it's just definitely not my thing right now.
Well, you look good with your SMP.
It works. I've got I like it if I've got a bit more of a beard with it, but I've had to shave it off because we've done the Rockset tribute gig, I had to shave it short again because the guy I'm playing the part of in that show doesn't have a beard, so it would look a little bit weird. I'd probably look like a BG with with that kind of wig hairstyle that I have to put on, and then this. But yeah, it works. But like I said, when I do gigs normally, I sometimes do solo gigs without hats and stuff like that. But when I'm in Farron, which is not dressed up as someone in a tribute show, it's me dressed just as myself and how I want to dress on stage. A lot of the things I wear, I like that I've mentioned before. I like the hats that I've got. It completes what I'm wearing, and it's just that little final touch. That's my thing. And I have a lot of kind of like custom made stuff, so it works for me. So I'm
Oh, you're
I
bringing
quite like
something
it.
out, aren't you? Are you doing some custom stuff?
Yeah, I was talking about this on the last episode with Andy, just getting some clothing done on through a little line. So
That's good.
Stuff that I'm going to wear on stage myself, but then it's available if other people want it. But I'm launching that next year,
Brilliant.
2024. But yeah, I don't really worry about, people worry about the SMP with bright lights on how it might adjust the way it looks. I don't have to worry about that when I'm on stage with the hats on stuff, because it's part of the style that I'm going for anyway, and that's the look I want regardless. So I'm not a long-haired rocker. I went through a bit of a phase where I liked the idea of having really long hair, and I did have longish hair maybe 2011 or 12 or something like that. It was starting to get down nearer to the shoulders and stuff. What I'd probably class more as kind of emo hair, really. Those MySpace days where everyone had the fringe kind of hanging over one eye. I'd got all that type of stuff going on, but that's not the look I would go for anymore anyway. And I think because I'm not like an 80s kind of glam rocker or anything, in leopard print kind of skin tight clothing. I don't really need it. There's a lot of kind of modern metal guys that have long hair, but there's also guys just with shaved heads, and it's very accepted.
It was the 70s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
70s look with the long hair.
It's very accepted in that kind of metal community just to have a shaved head.
Yeah.
So, which I found really helpful. But then I saw, like, I don't know if you've heard of a guy called Chris Daughtry. He's a singer from America. I think he was on American Idol, and Simon Cowell told him that he wasn't very good and not got any charisma, and then he went on to win various awards for albums.
Wow.
With his own band just called Daughtry. But he's just rocked that kind of bald head look with a beard. Keeps himself in shape, sounds great, looks great, it suits him. And
so Simon missed out there then, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think that I found it quite helpful to see him doing that in modern times. Just thinking, well, he's not part of just the rocky kind of community. He's also a bit poppy. A lot of people know who he is as a kind of more kind of commercial sounding artist. And he doesn't seem fazed by it, and people praise him for it and they think he looks great, which he does. And I found that in a way that little bit kind of comforting to just see someone else doing it and just getting on with it, and you don't really even worry about the way that he looks because it just sounds so good. And so that's become my whole focus now. Is I don't really care. Like I'll put certain clothes on that I like and I feel comfortable when we do gigs and things like that, but I'm so much more focused on how it sounds, because that's what people listen to in the car. They don't go, well, I'm not listening to this song because the singer's got no hair. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's not important in music to that degree. I mean, people always say you've got to have a certain image for the full package, but then you look at Mick Jagger, he's not exactly a male model. I mean, he looked I think he looked cool, to be fair. He just weren't traditionally a handsome looking bloke. And Adele were successful before she lost weight, so people always said that you had to be a certain way or women had to be a certain shape, and she kind of knocked down that door, say, well, I'm just an average kind of normal looking girl, and I'm not a size 6, but she got this huge voice to go with it. And
Alison Moyet, another one, she's lost weight now, and she looked great. She really did in the 80s.
She said herself, didn't she? That she says I were very tomboy. She said I weren't how all the other 80s girls were. She weren't like Madonna and all these others. She just did what she did, and the voice and the songs that carried it through.
Yeah, I loved her. I really did like her, Alison Moyet. Yeah, she was in Yazoo, and then she did solo. Yeah,
and she's still doing it. And she sounds great. I've seen videos of her in the last few years. She sounds great. She just
doesn't look the same. It's like when you see it, it's like, no, I liked you when you were that, because it looks like a different person, even though the voice is there.
Yeah, she's tiny now, isn't she?
Oh, right, yeah. She lost tons of weight, didn't she?
Yeah. as much as people always say that image isn't important, it obviously is to some, and probably all of us to some degree, because we all formulate opinions on the way that we look, other people look, whether you share it or not through the internet or to friends, or you just keep it to yourself. You think things, and it is important. It's I can remember growing up looking at certain musicians thinking, I want to be just like you. I don't just want to sound like you and have your success. I want to look like you, you know. And people do. There's so many people out there who probably will think back to when they were 15-year-old and they bought a certain jacket or a costume because their favourite singer or guitarist or whatever it is dressed that way.
I remember going to see Grease in 1978. And there were the Pink Ladies, and then there were the T-Birds, and with the I thought I like the T-Bird look, you know, with the leather jacket and the jeans and that. Yeah, you came out and you're like walking down the street like John Travolta or Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, and it just goes back to what we talked about being influenced by people, you know, and if someone's had something done or they've bought something or they wear something, the people that are almost idolising them will think, well, it's okay for me to do that then. Whether it is, like we said before, whether it be wearing a wig, having SMP, an hair transplant, wearing a meat dress, whatever it is, people will be influenced by it. And I think it's good that even your likes of kind of people like Wayne Rooney were quite open about when he had an hair transplant. He just put a picture on straight away, because he were ridiculed for it, because he was quite a young lad when he started losing his hair. And you'd see all this abuse online about it, which wasn't really called for, because he's not really done it. He's not done anything to all these people to
people are just nasty. They're just, there's always going to be that, isn't there?
And then he never even, I don't think he even put anything on the post. He just put a picture of himself with his head down, showing the top of his head, because he'd had it done. Unfortunately, as you can see when you see him now, it's not been super successful, because it's that's it. This is the thing that puts me off about it, is because you've got to probably have a handful of them to have that density that you want, and they can only do so much in one go as well. So say if you need all the top of your head doing, it's likely they'll probably be able to really thicken up the top on one half of it, so they'll do the front for you first, and then you'll get the back done later. Or you could have it all scattered all across, but it's going to be really thin, and then you're going to have to go back again, because when the follicles are extracted, you've got to then get them back in the head within a certain time frame, or they can die off, and then a certain percentage of the ones that are put on there die off anyway. But it's down to...
Hard. It's having that done, it must be so... what's the word I'm looking for? It must be, you know, you're going through that every day thinking, oh my God, is it going to take, or am I going to lose it? And then, because the money, you don't get it back. They've done a procedure.
And when you have it done, you're told that then it's going to take a year, because some of it's going to fall out, but then it'll regrow. So the follicle remains, the hair will fall out, but then it will grow back thicker.
Right, yeah.
So that's when you'll see it in its fullest form after around 12 months, which is always the case. It always does look better. But that process, you've got a year's a long time when you're very conscious about something that's just been done to you. So that's like me kind of like only shaving my head once a week to 1.5 weeks for a year, knowing that it doesn't look right. So I can see that it's really stressful.
Noticeable, isn't it, when they've had a hair transplant?
Well, that's it. I mean, even people that don't lose the hair, if someone has their hair cut differently, people notice it. And then, you know, like we've talked about, if it's guys, sometimes they'll tell them if it looks good or bad. Or even if it looks good, they tell them it looks bad anyway. So you never know where you stand. But yeah, it's just a little bit weird. I think the whole situation with hair. I mean, I still question myself quite often just thinking, like, why do I feel so worried about it, or why did I feel so worried about it? It shouldn't really matter. It shouldn't define you as a person. But then it's just the biggest thing in your life at that time when it's happening.
Yeah.
And I imagine there's a lot of guys you speak to, clients, that will probably say similar things. They're just kind of, oh my God, I was so devastated when it happened, and then it must be so rewarding when that final result is there, and then they walk out of there gleaming, thinking, they've not got an afro, they've not got massive hair down to the backside, but they've got that shape back in the face, and they feel like they've got some ownership of the situation again.
And they look younger, without a doubt. It knocks years off people.
Oh, definitely.
It really does.
Yeah.
Getting that hairline back, frames the face, and I mean, you could like 20 years off some.
Yeah. I always used to get asked for ID when I had before I shaved my hair off. I always had a bit of a baby face, and then when I shaved it off, I can remember it might have been the same, maybe the day after, I'd gone somewhere to a gig to watch some band, and met this guy who were part of the support act for, and they would come from abroad, and we were chatting away, and he asked me how old I was, and I always used to, before, I'd always tell people to guess.
Yeah.
And they'd always guess far younger than what I was. He actually added about 10 years on to my age at the time. And I was like, wow. So we out the day after shaving my hair off, everyone thinks I'm far older than I am. And so that was obviously quite a lot to kind of accept at that time. But since I've had the SMP, I have actually had people thinking that I'm a little bit younger than I am. I'm not saying that they think I'm 21 or something, but they might shave off 5 years or something, thinking
it's nice though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But I suppose it depends on what circumstances they see me in, because if I'm on tour with a band and we're being like acting like idiots, they probably think I'm 12. So just had a rough paper round.
Too much booze.
Oh God. Well, I'm quite sensible on tours. I don't drink, and I did in my very younger years, but I don't drink at all on tours.
No.
And I always said I always do my drinking when I come home, which I've gone through phases in life where it's been every time I'm home. But right now, I'm probably only kind of having a drink once every 5 to 6 weeks at the moment.
Wow.
It'll probably change a little bit near Christmas. We've
Yeah?
got some fun stuff coming up and things like that. But I'm right now, because I'm trying to preserve my voice, because I'm constantly working within this studio and recording for different things. I've not got the time to do it really, because I don't want to feel like I've got like a gritty throat the day after when I've been drinking and stuff like that. But yeah, it's better. I'm going to say you're spending a fortune on, I mean, whatever you want, but I mean, I don't want to blow loads of money on just loads of alcohol and feel rubbish all the time.
I've done that years ago.
Yeah, we've
Going
all done
it. Drinking and then going out the next night and the next night, and then I can't do it now. It's days that it's a recovery.
Yeah.
When I went to the awards, I thought I'll just have 2 pints. My friend was driving. And then when I won it, I went, I'll get myself a glass of wine. And I was on such a high. And then we were eating. I bought a bottle of wine, and so I drunk that. Well, no, I didn't. I drank half of it. But the next day, wow. All day, I was just...
And it's when you look at your bank account, because now it's so easy to just go around with the card and just, or connected to your phone like mine, and you just you don't even think about what you're spending, do you? Because years ago, you'd take out a certain amount of money with you.
It.
Yeah, unless it got to 2, 3 in the morning, and suddenly you're thinking, oh, I'm going to go and make a ATM trip here, which is just not the good thing to do, is it? Pull out another £60 to £100 at 4 in the morning.
Hell.
You're going to be going wherever you're going. But now it's just beep, beep,
I remember
beep,
when I used to go out in the 80s. When I started drinking, it was about 78 pence for a pint.
Oh, yeah.
So we used to just like, I mean, God, how many times did your grandma and granddad say that? So you'd go out, maybe a fiver, you'd have a few pints, but in the 80s we didn't drink and do shots. we actually drunk halves, so it was about 40 pence for a half.
Right.
And there wasn't as many takeaways as I remember. There weren't the McDonald's or anything for after night. There'd be a Chinese restaurant. I remember going there a couple of times for something to eat. And then you taxi home. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a lot of money.
Even when I went out as a teenager, this was the early 2000s, you could still get a pint in a Wetherspoons for about £1.10 at that time. I think now you're lucky if you're going to get a pint for less than £4 these days. It's normally £4 to £7.
Yeah, it is.
Depending on if you're in a city centre or just a
There's
little
about
village
5
pub.
or 6. I drink, like, if I go out, I'll have a pint of 5% stuff, and it's about £5 or £6.
Yeah.
But it used to, when I was in 95, we used to go out, probably on a Sunday night, have 3 cans. They sold cans in the pub I went, and Red Stripe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of music venues I used to play at, they'd always have cans of Red Stripe.
Red Stripe. And I remember going out, I thought, I'll have a 5. My friend was driving. I'll take a 5 and I'll get 3 cans out of that. What? 5 wouldn't even get you 1 pint.
Yeah.
But then again, everything was different. You talk about the price was cheaper, but everything was.
Yeah.
It's all right, and you didn't earn as much money, so...
Well, yeah, it's all...
But it's nice, isn't it, thinking you could go and have a pint for 78 pence. It'd be nice if they brought that back.
Could get on a bus for like 45p. Yeah.
Oh, my God, 45. I remember when it was 15 pence. I remember when I was going to school in the 70s, it was 2 pence on the bus and 2 pence back to school, and I'd walk to school or run, and then I'd walk back to spend it on chocolate, sweets.
Even 2-penny chews aren't 2 pence now.
We used to have half a pence. You could get chews and stuff and bubbly for half a pence.
Wow.
It was crazy. But when I was talking about this the other day, and I said, everything was kind of the same price. So a Mars bar, I remember being 4 pence and a bag of chips being 4 pence. And there's no way, like a Mars bar's about 70 pence, isn't it? But a bag of chips is like £2 or £3. It's gone up differently how close it was.
You just can't go anywhere now, and before you know it, you've spent £30 wherever you've gone.
Yeah.
Whether you've just nipped into town centre for a few hours.
Well, it's like the buses. I remember in the 90s was, I think it was the last time I remember getting on a bus, and I went on a bus in 2011 because my mum and dad were giving me their car, and I went over to pick it up that particular time when I had that car, and so I got on the bus and I said, "Is it still 30 pence off peak?" And he went, "No, it's whatever it was." I says, "Don't you do off peak?" I said, "God, it was 30 pence. 30 pence for off peak, and if you're a student, it was 15p. 30 pence, and it was like £3 or something."
I'm not sure if I could be wrong, but I think I did get a bus in the summertime, and I'm sure it were about £2 odd or something, or nearly £3.
You can get the day thing, can't you, that you can use all day.
But when I said it, I says, "Oh, I only want a single." He went, "That is a single." I went, "Oh." I obviously don't get the bus enough, so.
Well, it's come down to like, the bus is more expensive than a taxi if there's a few of you going. It never used to be.
Yeah.
So if there's 4 of you going on a bus, it'd be cheaper to get a taxi.
Yeah.
Than the bus if you're going local.
I've looked at this, and like if me and Libby want to get into the town centre, we may want to get a train to Sheffield or something. We actually went to Wakefield in the summer, I think, and it was I think the bus would have been about £6 to £8 or something for us both, or whatever it was. I can't remember. It might be about £6. So if we'd have got the bus there, and then we'd have got the train, which was a further, I think it was about £16 for us both to get there. But then it was only about £4 more for me to get a taxi directly from my house to Wakefield. So I'm not going to bother. Yeah. I'm just going to get picked up from my house and get taken straight to where I need to be. I'm not going to have to wait for a bus next at the bus stop, then wait for a train, and travel over those. And it would, I think it was going to take like 2/3 the time. Yeah. So this was just, I just booked an Uber. Job done.
Yeah, it's a lot easier, isn't it? Than buses.
Yeah. And I don't have to talk to anybody. It was like, I like chatting to people, but I only like chatting to people if it's on my terms.
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah,
people
I'm-
coming and sitting at the side of
And
me.
starting talking a
and they've-
conversation.
yeah, and they've not had a shower and they're offering
Oh,
you
yeah.
drugs and
Oh, yeah, I'm very strange about that. If someone got up from a seat, fresh from a seat, I couldn't
Yeah.
sit there. It's like, I can't, all sorts of things.
yeah.
But that's me.
It
That's
sounds really
the way
snobby
I
from
am.
us, doesn't it? But it's just, but there are a few people that just kind of float around in the town centres, and their only real purpose of being there that day is to just ask for money from people. When
Oh, yeah.
when they're
It's
not
a
home,
big business.
they're not homeless. They're
You've
just
got to
asking.
look at the fingernails, I always say, look at the fingernails. They should be ingrained with filthy and, ingrained with dirt, because if they're living on the streets, unfortunately, that's what
Yeah.
they are. But it's a big business.
Yeah, there's a lot of people now that just they're pretending to be homeless, just walking around getting money, and then
I've done it before when I've been in Aldi near me, and there's a guy that sits outside, and he says he's not on. He did a little sign, not on drugs, not on this, blah blah blah. But I won't give him money. I'll buy him a sandwich,
yeah,
a pack of crisps, and an orange juice or something. I'm not giving money
yeah,
because a lot of them, if it is that, it is for drugs, and I'm not gonna do that. But
yeah. No, I used to give people coins and stuff like that. But now it would be a case of, well, do you want a bottle of water and a sausage roll or something like that? People always say, don't give them money because they're just going to spend it on alcohol. I'm thinking, well,
and
that's what I were going to spend it on anyway. So.
It could be a business. They employ them, and it's like, right, you go there, you go there, you go there, and then they do that.
Yeah.
Years ago, when I was little, and I'd go into, my mum would go shopping into Leeds, and because I lived in Leeds then, and on the way to the bus, we'd go through Leeds Market. I'd get myself one of these. I can't remember. I thought it was Grinelli's ice cream. Lovely ice cream, but the tramps, that's what they were called, tramps in the day. The hair was so dirty, it was like dreadlocks. They were filthy. And I remember saying to my mum, well, she's told me this, that I'd say, Mum, give me some copper, I want to give it to the tramps. And I remember giving them 2 or 3 pence, but they were, they were living in under the arches. Near the train station in Leeds, there used to be the arches. I think it's, well, it was a shopping centre. I've forgotten what it was called. And they'd live under the arches. My dad took me down there once, years ago, when I was little, and you could see all the
Well,
the
they're
tramps.
the people that actually do need it because they need it for
Yeah.
food. There's people that, like we said, that they are fed and they're clothed and they've got a house or they've got some kind of accommodation, and they're just literally just getting money for drugs. But yeah, when you talk about the tramp thing, I've not heard the word
Tramp, I know.
That used to be, that was the term when I was a kid, and it would always be if you'd not kind of combed your hair or had a shower for a day or two. Oh, you look a right,
like a
you look a right tramp. That's how it were.
Yeah, I don't know what they call them, vagrants, so everything's politically correct. You can't say anything at all. You just
That's
it's best
why
to just
it's easy to just
not talk to people.
Yeah.
You get into trouble if you said, "Oh, that's hers" or "That's his." Well, why are you guessing my? This is like what? Because making a big deal out of something.
That's into the realm of just I don't know enough, so I just don't get involved in it.
It's best not to speak to people
Yeah.
or just say that's that person, because it's too much going on, and you can insult someone without meaning to insult somebody.
I think for me as well, I see all this stuff on the internet. I've never actually met somebody and sat down and that might go by multiple pronouns and things like that, because I can't even sit and just
there's
even
more
find
than
out and
them
ask.
and they now, isn't it? There's all these things that I've never even heard of, what people go by, and it's like, where have they even got them from? I don't even know what they are.
For me, when on the occasions maybe a couple of years ago when I first started hearing about it, and I look on the internet, there were too many conflicting websites for me to know what was the right information about it. So I've just stepped away from it, and I'll just kind of wait really until I meet somebody.
As long as I don't offend anybody, I'm all right. It's just really hard to...
It's almost impossible not to offend anybody these days, though.
Yeah.
There'd be people that would probably be offended by the things I've talked about to do with hair loss today, just because some people just like to be offended. So
they forget that they've got this little thumb on the remote and just move to the next.
Yeah,
just don't get involved. They put warnings on television programmes that you might, some viewers might find this offensive. Well, if they do, they've told you. So move along. Don't be writing in, because you're writing in. You've watched it. Why?
Yeah, people just like to moan.
They do.
They're just there's a like a rock festival. You've heard of Download Festival?
Yeah.
It used to be Donington years ago. They've just announced a new lineup for the next one, and there's just loads and loads of people complaining, but.
Why?
No one's because they don't like the bands that are on. Just don't go. Go to another one. There's probably another festival that's got all the same stuff that you like. So don't go to that. I just don't understand. You see kind of comedians getting cancelled in areas, and councils will say, "Oh, we're not having that person on because they offended this person." Well,
why were they there?
Well,
unless they didn't know, but just walk out.
The only people that are going to go is that person's audience, so they're going to buy tickets. So if you don't like it, don't go.
Yeah.
It's
like they buy the tickets just specifically so they can say something.
I wouldn't pay money and buy tickets and take time out of my day to go and watch something I don't like or I'm going to be offended by. I mean, it's hard to offend me. There's a lot. I can literally find humour in most things, even things that affect me. So I just think, well, it's a joke, and people don't realise that it is just a joke. You know, comedians are now combating it because they're talking about it as well. You see people like Jimmy Carr and Frankie Boyle and Ricky Gervais, and they actually acknowledge the fact that people are acting like the things they're saying. You make a joke about murder, doesn't mean that you've murdered somebody.
Exactly.
You've just made a joke.
We used to have that in the prison service, like that sense of humour that was different because it just helped you get through.
Yeah.
I think you were a bad person.
Some things in life you've just got to have a little bit of that.
I remember watching, in the noughties when Little Britain came out. I think it's been banned now, hasn't it? They won't show it.
This.
And it was funny.
Yeah, Little Britain and a handful of other.
I think Catherine Tate, some of her stuff was...
Yeah, things have been removed, even from only 10, 15 years ago, because it's been deemed offensive.
But the thing is, they insulted everyone. Not insulted, but they picked on. They were funny, Little Britain. Yeah. I saw something the other day on TikTok. I put in, like, bloopers, whatever it's called. Is it called bloopers? Bloomers?
Bloopers.
Of Little Britain. And then it there was these deleted scenes that I've never even seen before.
Yeah.
And it was like, why didn't they show that? Because it was just as the same as what the other stuff were, but...
There's just... someone in quality's just gone, that's just a little bit over the line, so we're not going to have that just in case, but... I mean,
in the 70s, she was called Mary Whitehouse, I think, that used to go on about films and how disgusting things were and programmes. And now it's come back. And now that it's happening all over again, and we can't show this because it's going to upset somebody. Just don't watch it.
Yeah.
Life's too short, isn't it? To be just...
Yeah.
be offended all the time.
It's because the way we view media's changed, though, hasn't it? Because, like, when we were younger, you would have to physically go somewhere to watch it, or you would have to buy it or rent it or whatever it would be. So you would have to go out your way to see these things. Now, you just have to scroll through your news feed and things appear that you may not have been necessarily looking for.
I do. If it's anything with animals, I will just pass, but I'll never look at it.
Yeah.
But I just pass it.
Well, the thing is, people... So like... Yeah, if you think about animals, so obviously, if a video comes up and it's animal cruelty,
oh God, no, never.
The worst thing you could do is comment on it and say, as people do, and go, "This is wrong" or "This is disgusting," because when you comment on it, the algorithm's kicking in, and whether it's Facebook or Instagram, they see that you've got a comment on there. They think, well, that person engages with that type of content, so we'll show you more of it.
Oh, I never
so the worst thing you can do is actually.
Right.
the best thing, if it gives you an option to kind of like click show fewer posts like this, click on that.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Because otherwise,
I generally do go on that, and I just put hide post because I don't
Yeah,
want to see it. I
that's
don't
it,
want to
yeah.
ever come up again. But yeah, we've got a choice, haven't we?
but yeah, I think people just see a little snippet of things and then they just think, oh, I'll just jump straight onto that and I'll complain about
The 70s
it.
were bad. The 70s, when you think of it, it was they put stuff on that was bad.
But the thing is, a lot of there's still people that said a lot of things in the 70s. They're still going now. They're still alive and they're still doing shows. And I mean, if you don't like it, just don't go and watch it. There's certain stuff I don't like, and I just don't go and watch it, and that's it. And it's the same with everything, isn't it? When we were talking about people commenting on hair videos, or it be somebody watching a comedian, just people don't always need to know your opinion of it. And
definitely.
And sometimes, just let people just do what they do and enjoy it. There's bands out there I'm not that bothered about listening to, but there's lots of people that do like listening to them. Let them go and enjoy it. If somebody wants to have an hair transplant, let them go and enjoy it. Wherever it is.
It's none of our business, is it? It's their business.
Yeah.
So let them.
People, if someone comes to you and they want a specific thing from you, if it's something you can work with them on, then you do. And like you said, if it's something that you're not interested in doing, you don't. So
yeah.
So before we wrap up, what kind of advice do you think you should give to people who are they've seen an SMP video or they've seen an example of it and they think that might be for me, but I don't know and I'm terrified of the idea of it?
For me, if I was having a client come to me, contact someone that you've done your research and speak to them and just see how approachable they are and their knowledge. Ask questions, have a list of questions that you want to ask and listen to the answers. And you want someone that you feel comfortable with and confident with, somebody that isn't pushy or just giving yes and no answers. Like one of the guys once said, he was asking because of this reason he was so nervous, and then said a question again, and like, well, we've answered that, haven't we? No, it doesn't matter how long they're asking questions. You're trying to gain their trust, and you need to be able to answer all the questions. So do the research, ask the question, don't be frightened. But what happens is some will look at the bad SMP.
Yeah.
And that's in their head. They could see 1,000 good, but that bad one is there. They need reassuring. And I do free consultations anyway, so I'll chat to them via WhatsApp. But if they want to come and see me and they come and see the clinic and everything, that's fine. Just come and you get to know the person. You get to know if you can work with them. So it's best for them to do that.
Yeah.
And look at the photographs. Make sure the photographs marry to the clinic. Unfortunately, there's people that pinch.
Yeah.
And if you are engaging with someone and then you go and you find that you're having a treatment with someone else, then stop. Don't do it. And say, I want to speak to you now. I want to see your work. And I know it's hard because you don't, if you're in that situation, but you want to know the person. When I had that wee tattoo on, I'd booked, and I thought this guy that I'd speaking to would do the tattoo. And it wasn't. When I got there, it was a guy who'd been doing them 6 months. And I just wanted to say, I don't want you to do it. I wanted him to do it, but I didn't. But it's not very good. But, so be aware that who are you talking to? Ask them if it's mine's one-man band, but you want to speak to the person who's going to be doing it.
Yeah.
And don't have two. One guy that came, what did he have done? And he said it was really painful. Anyway, he'd come for a touch-up with me, a recover with me, and he'd not been to before. But when he had his... no, it wasn't. It was a guy that I'd done, and his daughter and her partner came. He'd had SMP, and he was telling me about it in a well-known company. And he said he'd had it done first with this person. Then when he was coming back, she wasn't going to be there, so someone else did it.
Right.
And it's like, that's two different pieces of work, like a tattooist. You know, you've got your
Yeah.
own work. So just do your research, ask the questions,
Yeah.
and be really 100% sure about your choice.
Yeah, as we said, it works the same way. Like the tattoo place I go to, I happily put myself on the waiting list for Justina because I love the work that she does. She's got a couple of other artists that work there. They're great. They're just a different style. That's all. So in those circumstances, you are going to get a good tattoo from that studio, but it might not necessarily be the style you want unless you specifically ask for and book in with that individual. And obviously, like you say, with that, you don't know what you're going to get if you're just going to have a random face because you need to know about the individual. You know,
and you don't want to be in a place where you're in and out. You know, like you want to. If there's something at the end of your session that you want doing, it make sure that you're not on like, oh, you're at 10 o'clock. Well, no, you can't come later because I've got someone else booked in at this time.
Yeah.
Means that you've got that. And if the person before you's run late, it's going to reduce. I'm not saying that anyone's bad because everyone's entitled to do what they want, you know, but I would just work with one a day. And that's, I don't want to be stressed. I had bloody 15 years of stress in the prison service.
Yeah.
So I want to do my job that I love and take my time without stress.
It also gives you that freedom and flexibility at the end, so that if someone does say, well, could you actually just adjust this bit because it's good what you've done, but I want it like this.
Yeah.
You can turn around and say, well, I'm happily can spend 10 minutes or an hour doing whatever you want to do.
And I've got 2 dogs, and I think Timothy would be mad if I wasn't home half the day.
Yeah.
He'd be cocking his leg all over you. He'll take that nappy off and cock his leg. But it's nice to love what you do and enjoy it and make sure your client is really satisfied.
Yeah.
As well as yourself, it's your work. You don't want to be looking at pictures thinking, oh, well, 2 weeks down the line, I'll sort that out. No.
Yeah.
But that's just how I work. And everyone's different.
It seems a good way to do it because you've got that work-life balance. And like you say, you've got your dogs. You can still go out and do what you want to do, or you can go and relax. And you're not thinking, oh, I've got to then do it all again with another client straight after.
And you've got a house, and you want to, you know, there's things that you've got to do. Yeah. So you don't want to be like feeling stressed at times.
And I can imagine it. You know, I don't know how heavy that is. The equipment that you're using.
Oh, it's very light.
But I imagine it can probably be quite tiring having a steady hand for X amount of hours. So me personally, I wouldn't want to do a second one in the same day because I think I might not be quite as accurate.
I think that.
So at least then you're kind of fresh for every client then.
I find it really relaxing doing this. But if you get a client in and you've had a first session and then you've got another first session and you look and think, wow, this is a lot more than I thought. Yeah. You're just thinking, gosh, it's taking ages. And then they've had the really brilliant session. I'm not saying that they would be getting a bad session, but like you say, you could be tired or you could have, you know, some aches or whatever with doing it. It is like this all the time. Yeah. But I love it. I love it, and I'll keep doing it. And yeah, I have no plans to retire because when you do your hobby for a living, there's nothing to retire from.
Yeah, well, that's it. And there's people that they hate jobs for 40, 50 years, and they are counting down. I'd worked somewhere a while back, and we had a guy come to fix a photocopier, and he never smiled all the way through it. He moaned about the job all the way through it. And then he just kept talking about when he was going to retire, and he'd got a counter on his phone, like, you know, like you can put a countdown to a date. And he was telling me to the minute how long he'd got until he retired. And I just thought, wow.
I had that on my computer in the prison. It was like a countdown in hours. And I used to look and I'm like, I don't even know what it was, but yeah.
I just think if you're going
to... When you're living for the end, it's not good to retire.
Because you're
older when you're
not going to be full of beans.
Exactly.
You probably can't bother to do all the fun stuff that you probably should have done when you were younger. Yeah. So I just think
You've got to have that
you
balance.
just need to change jobs then,
Yeah.
or find something that you're passionate about. Because
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, you're only here once.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's got different beliefs, but for me, I just think I'm a little flicker in time,
Yeah.
and I just need to make the most of it. So
When you're taking your last breath and you think, yeah, I did a lot and I'm happy, rather than bloody. I only retired a few years ago. Now I'm taking my last breath.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? You want to be looking back, thinking, I've had a good time.
yeah, and
Yeah.
you think about when every time you finish your sessions with a client and you've made somebody happy.
Yeah.
You know, if you can do that for a number of years.
That's why I
And-
keep up here. I'm always on a high now because it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
It really is.
It can be life changing for people.
Yeah.
It can, to a point where their confidence can come back, and
Oh yeah. Definitely.
and as you mentioned about yourself, when your confidence comes back after you feel like you've had it knocked out of you, you can do great things after that. So, you know, there's a lot of people that they never get it back, and they never achieve what they probably could
Wanted,
do.
yeah.
But then there's people that when they do get it, they go on and they start up businesses, or
Yeah.
they have some kind of musical venture, or whatever it may be, or you know, or they, I don't know, go to the other side of the world and help people that
Yeah.
really need it. There's just they get this kind of like new lease for life. And I know it sounds ridiculous because it's just some ink on your head, but it makes such a difference to a lot of people.
It
It's
does.
made a difference to me, I feel.
Well, my client yesterday, a lady, last session, and from the first very sparse to now, it's just look. I said, you know, your hair is still sparse, but the amount of scalp that you see is reduced. You can still see it. You have to do, otherwise you might be just colouring it in. But that's that look of density.
Yeah.
And she was like over the moon because it was a massive thing, and it is a massive thing for women losing their hair.
Yeah.
And they need to know that this is out there and can help them.
Yeah.
100%. It's brilliant. And this is for anybody, as long as there's a certain medical things that if they can't have it. But there's only a small amount. But apart from that, men and women, you know, for any sort of hair loss. Yeah.
Yeah.
For anyone.
So the best thing people can do then is they can do the research,
Yeah.
and then obviously make contact and
Ask questions.
and see if it's right for them.
Yeah.
Because
And
something.
see about the pictures, and how about if it's a guy, what hairline, etc. You know,
Yeah.
you want it as natural as possible. You want people to look and think, are you growing your hair, or there's something different about you? Because if their eyes go straight up, then you know that they know that there's something.
Yeah.
Because your eyes are all automatically drawn to something that doesn't look right.
Yeah. I think as well. I experienced a few people saying to me that they'd not seen the video that I'd put on about having the SMP, and I'd bumped into kind of a handful of people on my travels who I'd not seen for a while, obviously because we've all not been able to see each other as much in
Yeah.
the last few years, and they were saying, there's something different about you. But they didn't know what it were, and they couldn't put the finger on it, and they would just kept going like, "Oh, have you grown your beard different or something?" And like, you just look different. And then obviously once I told them, they were like, "Oh yeah, actually now, yeah, I've seen it."
Yeah. That's when you know it looks natural.
Yeah, I think the only other time someone has really noticed it is before me and Libby got married. She booked us into some place for this like pampering session, and this woman did all sorts of stuff to her face and to try and make us look fresh.
Yeah.
And I was like laid on this kind of like spa type of fold out bed thing, and she was right next to my head. She was probably 3 inches from the top of my head doing something to my face. And when she they have the big kind of ring spotlight over you, and she just looked at me, she said, "Oh, have you had the?" She just called it the hair tattoo. Have you had one of those hair tattoos? And I said, yeah. She says, "Oh," she says, "I couldn't tell when you come in, but obviously when she got really close up with a ridiculously bright light, so it shows it's like it's almost non-detectable to a certain degree because most people don't have a clue." I mean, everyone knows I've had it done because I tell them so.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that really are out there and saying, yeah, I've had scalp what's that? Like the hair tattoo, scalp tattoo. And there's others that don't.
Yeah. Well, that's it,
fine.
because it's still admitting that you've had to have something done because you've lost your hair. Whereas for me, I'm not bothered.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for people to make a joke out of it against me because I've made the joke before, and and I'm very open about what I've had done and why I've had it done. So I tend to get left alone, really.
Yeah.
I get the odd comment, which it's usually something I made a joke of. If it's raining outside, people say, "Oh, it'll mess your hair up" and things like that. But other than that, that's all I really get. I said,
well, at least if you're caught in the rain, your hair's not going to be ruined, is it?
No, definitely not.
Dry it off.
Yeah. So the only downside is that my head still gets cold in winter because I haven't got hair, even though it looks like it could grow. Which I've had people comment before, and they said, you could grow your hair long." Oh no, I can't.
Yeah, I don't think it'll grow.
And they look like, they say, "Oh, are you sure?" I said, yeah, it doesn't grow. And they think, you can see them looking like it looks like it does. You know?
My mechanic said that. He said when they said, "Why you've got all that hair? Why do you shave it?" He says, "I just don't think it'll grow." Great answer, because they're like, "What?"
Yeah. Well, I hope that we've educated people on
I hope so.
on SMP. And given people an idea on whether or not it is right for them or not. There's, like we said, there's people it might be perfect for. There might be something that they might prefer a different option, but it's just giving them that bit more information, and it's from someone that does it and someone that's had it done, and they've kind of got that kind of open view from both of us. So
hope it helps.
Yeah, we hope it's been helpful. So. Thank you very much to the ones that have been listening, and thank you, Jo, for coming
You're
down.
welcome. It's been a pleasure.
And I'm sure I will see you very soon.
Yes, definitely.
When I need a little bit of a top up.
Yeah.
Which I imagine is going to be quite soon because I like to keep it fresh.
Yeah, definitely. Come and see the new clinic.
I will, and I'll bring some cameras with me.
Oh yeah, brilliant! Another one, great. We can have another one on there.
Why not?
Yep. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
See you soon.
Bye.